Appreciate again Randall House and their ministry, and not just to our immediate denomination, but to the peoples of the world. So at this time, we'll have, I think Todd Parrish has a report of Welch College. So we'll have Todd to come, and then after Todd, we'll have Don. Are you doing the report for international missions, or is Neil? Okay. All right.
College, Welch College. I want to say thank you for your support and for your prayers and for your investment in the college. On behalf of President Pinson, we thank you, and he sends his greetings. Also, Brother David Williford usually attends the Ohio State meeting and had planned to do so this year and would be giving this report, but his dear wife, Miss Donna, had to have some pretty extensive foot surgery just a few days ago. She's doing well. The surgery was successful, but Brother David, in addition to all of his many duties, he has taken upon himself the duty of nurse, and so he's waiting on her literally hand and foot. So do be praying for Brother David. He wanted to tell all of his Ohio friends thank you. And thank you also if you would remember Donna in her prayers, in your prayers as she recovers. If I could illustrate with one picture what it's been like at the college this year, not being able to get out, that probably illustrates our feelings better than anything else. We have been wanting to be with you. We have wanted to get out and to fellowship and to be in district and state meetings, be able to come to your churches and bring our ministry teams, but it has just been frustrating. This is my grandson, Jack. He turned 4 months old yesterday, and so grandpas have got to find a way to work their grandchildren into the presentation. But he wasn't sad over COVID. He had just gotten his shots in that picture, and like his granddad, he's allergic to pain, and he didn't like those. And so, but anyway, we're glad to be able to be with you and be out and about. And there we go. Good. We are the only Free Will Baptist College owned and operated by you, and we take that very seriously. We thank the Free Will Baptist denomination for your continued investment and your support for the college. I also want to say thank you to the state of Ohio, because you have also, not just as a denomination, but as a state association, you have been very faithful to support the college through the years. Just this last year, not the current year that we're in, our fiscal year is a little different than most of our national departments in the sense that we have to follow the academic year. So our fiscal year begins on June 1st and it ends on May 31st. And so we're still tabulating all the facts and figures from this past year to be able to report to you in Memphis. But going back to our last annual report, the state of Ohio sent 7 of the best and brightest young men and women to the college to be trained as leaders to serve Christ, His church, and His world through biblical thought and life. The Ohio State Association, in our last annual report, gave over $19,000 to Welch College, and we say thank you for every dime that you gave. We also want to thank you for not just your students, but also the leaders that you've sent our way. Our board member from this state is Brother Mike Armstrong. We appreciate his leadership on our board for a long time. He also serves on our board as our board secretary. And today we were introduced to your new promotional director, Brother Ben Crabtree, and his father, Brother Jeff Crabtree, chairs our college board. And so there's another Ohio connection. And we again say thank you for the leadership that you've sent. I also want to publicly recognize the Porter Church. They, for the last few years, have consistently been in our top 50 giving churches to the college. So thank you, Ohio, for what you've done to invest in the college ministry. I could tell you several things in our report today about the college that have been exciting, even in the midst of COVID this year. This past year, we had to have reaffirmation in 3 different areas of accreditation at the college. We are fully accredited, regionally accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. This accrediting body is the same body that would accredit the University of Tennessee, Vanderbilt University, and major state colleges and universities. And every 10 years, we have to do a reaffirmation of our accreditation. They send teams. We have to do reports. They examine every aspect. It's almost like getting an in-depth physical exam. And I am glad to report to you that at the end of their visit, they gave us thumbs up. We will not know the results until they actually meet later this year, but early indications are everything was spot on, and they were very pleased with what they saw. We also are accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education. They too were on campus this year. We also had to do an in-depth report. We also had a team visit. And when they finished with their team visit again, gave us 2 thumbs up and said, you guys are doing well, and made recommendations which we need, which we want and desire, but the overall view from these agencies were that things were doing as you would expect us to do, and they were very pleased with what they saw. Also this past year, the Tennessee Department of Education, one of our programs at the college is to train teachers to go into elementary and secondary schools, become licensed teachers in your state. And so in order to be able to graduate teachers that can have licensure, we also have to be accredited by the Tennessee Department of Education. And they also evaluated us this year and evaluated our education department specifically. And again, they were very, very pleased with what they saw. And so we just thank God. If you're involved in higher education at all, you know that accreditation is a very, very serious thing. And so we're always glad when we can get over these hurdles and we can look forward to the next 10 years. We also had 68 men and women on May 7th walk the stage as part of the class of 2021. And get their degrees, and are now going to go out into the harvest fields and be salt and light for the kingdom. Some of those young men are going to stand in pulpits across our denomination, and they're going to proclaim without apology the inerrant, inspired, infallible Word of God, just as you would expect us to train them to do. We're going to have young men and women from this class that are going to not just go around the corner, but they're going to go around the world. They're going to carry the gospel to the regions beyond. But also, some of those young men and women in that class of 2021 are going to stand in your child's classroom or in a classroom just like that. And when it comes to the point in the academic day for that high school teacher or that elementary teacher to teach a history lesson, if it's a Welch teacher, they're not just going to teach it that it's a history lesson, but they're going to teach it from the aspect that it's his story. If they teach a biology lesson, they're going to teach in the beginning God created, because that's the Christian worldview that we instill in these young leaders for Christ, as you would expect us to. We had 356 students that enrolled this year. They came from all over the country, 23 different states, 1 U.S. territory, and 4 foreign countries. Now, if you look at that figure, and if you keep up with the numbers from the college, you might notice that that is a dip from the year before. Actually, it's the first decrease that we have experienced in 5 years. And we know that in a lot of ministries, in your church and in other ministries, COVID hit hard. And in the world of higher education, it also hit hard because a lot of parents chose, because of the pandemic, to keep their children close to home, to go to the local college or community college or technical school and try to avoid being exposed to all that was going on in our country and our world. And at Welch College, it was no different. We know this because when we look at our local numbers, the commuter students, the Sumner County residents that come and get their education there on campus, those numbers actually went up this year. So it gives credence to this idea that a lot of students wanted to stay close to home. Do pray for us that as we look toward this fall, that we'll see those numbers increase. And if you have young people in your church, let me just say something to you as a pastor or as a leader. Your young people are going to go to college somewhere. And before I came to the college, I was a pastor for about 25 years. And one of the things that would frustrate me is I would pour my life, pour my ministry into young people in our church. They would come to Sunday school, children's church, VBS, youth camp, youth activities. And for 18 years, I would pour my preaching and my life and my ministry and the ministry of our people into them. And for 18 years, we would teach them the Word of God, only to see them go to a state college or a secular university, and in 18 months, sometimes 18 weeks, a liberal professor would totally try to destroy everything our local church had tried to do in 18 years. Pastors, what we want to do is we want to encourage you to send your young people. If they're going to go into full-time ministry, we're going to train them. But if they're going to be just a full-time servant for the Lord in a bank or in a hospital as a nurse or a businessman or a teacher in a classroom, we want to train them with that same biblical worldview so that when they stand in that classroom or they stand in that bank boardroom or they stand in that courtroom, they're going to stand on the Word of God from a Christian ethic, but then they're going to come to your local church on the weekend, and they're going to be the Aaron and Hur to your Moses. They're going to lift up your arms, and they're going to serve on your boards, and they're going to work in your classes, and they're going to help in your ministries. And that's what we're trying to do. So encourage your young people to get a solid education at your college that not only will train them well, but will also train them with academic seriousness and depth. We also expect to return to normal operations on campus this fall. We're very excited about that. Brother Eddie just mentioned to you about Memphis coming off of some of those restrictions. We're just hoping that when we get to this fall, a lot of our COVID restrictions will be lifted and we can just get back to some semblance of normalcy. Because of that, we're going to hold tuition this year. We did it last year because of the pandemic. We're actually going to hold tuition again this year, room and board costs. And so if a young person comes this fall, they're going to pay the same thing that they would have paid if they came 2 years ago in 2019 to try to make it affordable. We have over 40 programs of study that a young person can choose from. And being a smaller college, a lot of times a young person will say, well, I'd love to go to Welch, but you just don't have the program I'm interested in. Well, did you know if you get a bachelor's degree in whatever field, if it's a bachelor's degree, you're going to have English, math, science, world lit, history. You're going to have the core basics. And the neat thing about being a smaller institution is we can sit down with a young person and we may not have the program they're wanting to major in. We may not have a law school, but we can offer them those core courses that will transfer and they can go and do what they need to do. We see that in our nursing program. Hardest thing about becoming a nurse is just getting into nursing school. But with our 2x2 nursing collaborative with Union University and Cumberland University, they can come to us. If they're accepted into Welch and they do a good job and make the grade, they are automatically guaranteed a spot in some of the premier nursing schools in the Middle Tennessee area. And so we trust that you'll continue to encourage young people to take a serious look at us. We are excited about the new Master of Divinity program that's going to be starting this fall. This is a residential program. We also have some online and online hybrid programs in our graduate school. The Master of Arts in Theology and Ministry is a hybrid. It's mostly online, but you do come to campus for 1 week of the year. And we're very excited that we can offer this to all of our Free Will Baptist young people, regardless of where they may have gotten their education in their bachelor's. They may have gone to any one of our other Free Will Baptist colleges, but if they want to get a master's degree at Welch in Theology and Ministry, we would love to have them come, and we'll make a way for them to get there. We also have a Master of Arts in Teaching, totally online. If you're an educator or you want to go into education, we offer that degree as well. We also are trying to make it easier for young men of God to get the training they need to go back in the local church and be Free Will Baptist preachers and pastors. So we're offering a $10,000 a year scholarship. Now, this young man has to be recommended by his pastor. He has to be called of God and believes God is sending him into an ordained ministry in a local Free Will Baptist church. And if he has that recommendation from his church and his local, his pastor, his local church, we're going to help him with that education. Up to $10,000 a year. If you go to school 4 years, that's a $40,000 scholarship because, as Brother Eddie mentioned a while ago, we want to try to do something to help those 126 churches that don't have pastors right now. We are so thankful for your investment in our students. But I want to leave you with this question. This past year, as you looked at your television, you saw the news reports and everything that was going on in our country. My guess is you probably, like me, saw a lot of college students. You might not have you might didn't see a lot of Welch college students, but I guarantee you saw a lot of college-age young people. But a lot of the college-age young people I saw on television this year were not sitting in the local church worshiping the Lord. They were in the streets of our country, and they were protesting. They were angry. They were bitter. They're hurting. They're searching. They're empty. And instead of trying to build up the communities they live in through the gospel of Christ, through anger and bitterness or whatever the motivation, they seek to tear them down. And the thing that's going to help reverse that trend in this country is if we're willing to get young men and women who love the Lord to realize God wants to train them not just as a student, but to be a leader. And to be a leader to go back in that community and make a difference for the Lord and for the gospel. And so if we really want to do something about what's going on in our country, there is no better answer or option than to raise up an army of young leaders for Christ. And there is no better option, in my opinion, than send them to us and let us do what you expect us to do, where we can send them back and they will support what you're doing as a pastor and as a church member. Thank you so much for your prayers. Thank you so much for your support. We look forward to having our Rejoice Ministry team here later this evening and tomorrow. Take time to speak to these young men and women who are not just coming to sing a song, but they are living what we're talking about right now, and God is using them in a mighty way. Again, thank you, Brother Moderator. Thank you, Ohio Free Will Baptist.
Okay, you've heard the report of Welch College. We need a motion and a second to receive their report. We have that. Are there any questions? All right, there being none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. All right, at this time we have Brother Don Matchett with International Missions, and following him I think will be Samuel McVeigh with North American Ministries.
Well, just think you could have had Neil Gilliland instead of me. I'm not sure if he's famous or infamous, right? Love traveling with Neil. We were able to catch a Reds game. I'm not a Reds fan. I was last night, but we enjoyed that. I always enjoy traveling with him. So I bring you greetings from IM. We are your international mission sending agency. Together we have 103 missionaries serving in 16 different countries. Most of them are working with unreached people groups. These are people with little or no access to the gospel. And as you know, this is the way we finish the task. We reach unreached people groups. Our goal is to reach even more unreached people groups than we have in the past. A few months ago, maybe even a year ago, our general director shared a vision about reaching more into India. Why is that important? Did you know that there are 2,500 unreached people groups in the country of India alone? 2020, as some have already mentioned, was, as we know, was quite a challenge. But you weathered the storm, and while you weathered the storm, you helped us through this crisis as well. So I want to say thank you. We predicted several things that did not happen, and I'm glad for that. We predicted there would be some economic problems. We predicted that our missionaries would have a hard time getting funding. We predicted that missionaries would have a hard time getting to the field, and I'm glad to say that none of those happened. We're so glad that you stood behind us. Our financial reserves actually increased during this time. We saw missionaries find funding, several missionaries. In fact, even this morning, as we were every month, this is probably something you don't necessarily want to know every day, but every month we measure how our missionaries are doing, how the funding is going. And this morning I got a report from my assistant that every single missionary that we have right now that's raising funds are seeing an increase in their funding month to month. So I praise the Lord for that. Something else that you may remember, that in 2015 we set some lofty goals for 2020. None of us knew what 2020 was going to look like, but again, I want to celebrate with you and say that every single one of those lofty goals that we set in 2015, we were able to reach our 5-year goal in 2020. Now, certainly it was not without its challenges. E-Team, if you had E-Team members that were going out on E-Team, the schedule was changed. We didn't send any international trips, but as Neil can tell you, he being the leader of E-Team, this was a very good year. They went to Chicago, and as Neil has said, one of the best teams that we have had in E-Team. So we're thankful for that. Many of the Hannah projects trips are moving forward and being altered from time to time, but we're thankful that God's moving in that way. Can I give you an opportunity, something that you can do and be a part of? September the 26th through October the 2nd, we are hosting a perspectives class that'll be in Middle Tennessee, and everyone is invited. And you may be asking, what is a perspectives class? It is an event where you will just get flooded with missions information. I wish every single Free Will Baptist could go through this, because it gives you, it's a 6-day intensive where all you do is focus on the history, the movement of missions, how God's moving around the world, and I promise you it will move you to get involved in ways like you've never been involved before. If you want more information about that, you can contact me, Jerry Gibbs, or Danny Gasperson. And or you can go to the Perspectives website. We already have our information there, and you can sign up for that as well. Many of you have been a part of Go Global in the past, and thankful for that. But we have restructured, revamped Go Global, because, as you know, as time goes on, there comes times where what we did in the past was useful. Now it's time to do something else. So even if you have had Go Global in the past, I would invite you to visit this one more time. If you haven't had a Go Global at your church, please let us know. We'd love to come bring a few missionaries and spend 3 or 4 hours with you just on what's happening around the world with Free Will Baptist and international missions. Many of you are aware that the WMO, our date was in April, and also you're aware that many churches do their own date, and that's quite okay. But you should know that the WMO is one of the most important events that we have every single year, because there's so many things that are depending upon us having a good offering. If the offering doesn't go well, then we are unable to fund camps, seminars, church plants, leadership training, and funding of national missionaries and ministries. It supplements so much. A general fund also is supplemented, but perhaps something that may ring truer to you, the last 5 years, the World Missions Offering played a pivotal part in clearing every single missionary deficit account. So we got to the end of the year. It's so important that in January that those missionaries are able to start in the black, and that's what the World Mission Offering does. So I challenge you, if you're not being a part of this, please do. If you are, please consider what else you can do. I know that I can name some pastors here in Ohio that take this extremely serious, and you could take some notes from them as well. Our goal for this year is $1 million, and you may be thinking to yourself, man, that's a lot of money. And guess what? It is. That is a lot of money. The first thing I should say about that is we're not raising $1 million just for the sake of raising $1 million. There is a purpose. We're trying to expand God's kingdom. There's more that we can do if we had more resources. And that being a big number, though, realize this. If every Free Will Baptist church in our denomination gave $500 in this offering once a year, $500 once a year, every Free Will Baptist, we would raise $1 million. As simple as that. It's as easy as that. So I hope you'll get involved. Our date was April the 25th. It's not too late. You take the offering when it's important to you. We have people who are churches that take it up into October, some in December. We don't close the book on the WMO until December the 31st, and then we disperse the money. So that's totally up to you. We want to motivate. What is our purpose? We want to motivate every single church and believer to reach every nation. That's who we are. That's what we do. We have a task to finish, and we have a plan that was given by Christ, the Great Commission, in order to finish this task. He has said, go to every nation, beginning in Jerusalem, and for us to reach even further beyond those the four corners of the planet. Often we look at the Great Commission and we pick out what our favorite is, the local or the state or the country, the U.S. or the U.S. or even IM itself. But what he's not saying to pick one. He's saying we're responsible for all of those and to complete the task. We can't concentrate just in one area. We must reach further than our Jerusalem. We must reach further than our Judea and our Samaria. We must reach to the uttermost parts of the earth until every people group has heard the gospel of Jesus Christ. And then the scripture tells us, then the end will come. As Free Will Baptists, we must do this together. So I challenge you to do these things. I want you to pray specifically. I want you to go. I want you to send. And I hope you'll partner with us in missionary families. So thank you. Thank you, Ohio, for all that you've done for us. Thank you for $147,000 to IM last year. And by the way, $32,000 of that came from the WMO. So thank you for all that you do. And by the way, anything that we can ever do for you, we are your servants and we want to help you in your local church. God bless you.
You've heard the report of international missions. We need a motion and a second to receive their report. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? There being none, stand to your feet to vote aye. Give you a chance to wake up your legs. All right. You may be seated. All those opposed? Any opposed? None opposed. All right. Motion carried. At this time, Sam McVeigh will come and give us the report of North American Ministries.
It is great to be back in Ohio, and I hated that the COVID messed up the men's retreat. That's always a highlight of our year as well, but then to be able to come here. And so I bring you greetings from our CEO, Dr. David Crow, as well as our team there in Nashville and our church planters. Free Will Baptist North American Ministries exists to equip and send church planters and chaplains to plant healthy churches and make disciples in North America. And church planting is certainly our main focus. That's what we're focusing on. And Dr. Brad Ransom, who heads up all of our training for our new church plants, has worked really hard. And we are glad that we can offer assessment to our states. It was mentioned earlier in your mission report that we're thankful that we can partner with you guys in assessing candidates and making sure that when we send candidates out to plant churches and we ask our Free Will Baptists to support them, we can say, look, these guys meet the qualifications that they need and you can feel good about supporting them. And that's part of what our assessment program is doing. And of course, COVID has impacted all of us, but I'm thankful to tell you that even in the midst of COVID and a lot of the things that happened, we were able to do the assessment and send out 5 new church planting families in the last several months. We've sent a family to Anchorage, Alaska. The Chris Willis family is there now and working to try to establish a Free Will Baptist Church there in Anchorage. We have Don Ellard and his family that are going to Mariposa in Northern California, starting new work there. Jim Kilgore and his wife are in Waco, Texas, starting a new Free Will Baptist there. Amos Dillard has been a part of our church plant in Irvine, California, and now the Lord has directed him to go a little bit farther south there in California to the San Diego area. And so we've sent him there to the Chula Vista area of San Diego. And then just the last one that we have assessed, and we're partnering with the state of Florida to send Frank Webster, who also served on our board for many years. Frank and his wife Debbie are now in Florida, planning a new Free Will Baptist Church in the Villages, retirement community down there. And so we're thankful that God is blessing, and even though a lot of things have happened and some of our church plants have sort of seen some setbacks, that there's a lot of positive things going on. We have 43 English-speaking church planters planting 33 churches in 24 states. So we're thankful for that. And by the way, I'm sure that all of you here in Ohio keep up with Brother Travis and the work that's going on there. But if you don't, you need to get his latest newsletter and read about all the things that how God has opened doors and the involvement he is having there in the local community, police chaplain and working in the Cancer Society and all kinds of different things. And God's just opened up incredible doors of opportunities for him. Glad to be able to tell you that many of our church plants are seeing incredible growth. I talked with Carl Sproul just recently in Hawaii. Some things happened when COVID happened. The new church plant got shut down because he was renting a school, and so they closed the school. And because he was not officially organized, they wouldn't let him meet. But God opened the door for our original Free Will Baptist Church on the other side of the island. They called and said, "Hey, will you come and help us out because we don't have a pastor?" And rather than losing the new church plant, Carl goes over there and begins working with them. And now we've multiplied, and the church has almost doubled in this past year. One young man that he had won to the Lord on the basketball court in the new church plant, I think he told me there's about 18 people that are connected with his family that have now been saved and have been baptized. So God is on the throne and still growing his church, and so we're thankful for that. Another area of ministry is church revitalization. Brother Eddie mentioned that we're now partnering with the executive department. We're still developing materials and working on helping train our coaches in church revitalization. And so if you would like more information about that, you can go to our website or speak to us. Brother Ken Akers directs our Masters Men program. And we had our Deep South Golf Tournament back in the spring down in Dothan, Alabama, and had one of the biggest turnouts that we've had in a long time. Continue to work in disaster response, disaster relief, going where there are disasters, natural disasters, and helping out as much as we can and doing some things like that. Of course, we'll be serving there at our national with ushering and with the Impact Project on Saturday and those kinds of things. Brother Ken's working on a national men's retreat that we hope to have here before too long. Our materials that we have available, Bible studies for men's meetings, we have now have about half of those translated into Spanish, and we're working to get everything that we can translated into Spanish. Church Extension Loan Fund is continuing to grow. We have, I think, about $77 million in that loan fund, and about $74 million of that is loaned out. And we're getting requests on a regular basis for that particular ministry that the Lord has blessed us with. Another area of ministry that falls under our responsibility is our chaplains program. And a retired Army chaplain, Colonel Terry Austin, is our support officer for that. And we're excited about the growth there. We have 7 active duty chaplains right now. We have 3 U.S. Army Reserve chaplains, 2 National Guard chaplains, Secret Service chaplain. And then we have 4 young men that are in the process. They've already been commissioned, and they're just finishing up their final requirements to be full-fledged chaplains, and we're excited about that particular program. If you know someone that is interested in the military, interested in going in, it's an open opportunity for service to our men and women that serve in the armed forces. And if you want information about that, you can contact Brother Terry Austin about that. Our cross-cultural ministries, Brother Rick Bolin heads that up, and at the present time we have about 52 Hispanic speaking works that are meeting, and we have 6 national missionaries or church planners that oversee those. I was just last week down in Fort Myers, Florida, and was able to visit in one of those works that is growing and reaching the Hispanic speaking population down in that particular area of Florida, and we're thankful for the way that God is blessing there. You may have heard about our power conference we had just a few weeks ago. We had over 300 attend the first ever Hispanic speaking power conference. I wish you could have all been there. I was encouraging English-speaking people as I traveled around. You need to come and experience what our Spanish-speaking brothers and sisters experience when they come to our church and they can't understand what we're saying. Although we did provide good translation for all of those services. And so we are very thankful for that particular area of ministry and the way the Lord is blessing there. I would love to come and share in your churches. I find as I travel around that our people just have no idea what all North American Ministries is involved in doing. And I had a call just yesterday from one of our state leaders wanting me to come, and he said, the people in our churches, they just don't know what you're doing. And so they wanted me to come and share. And so if I can come and share in your churches about what God is doing through North American Ministries, I would love to do that. Just see me and we can set a date. And then I would just let you know that November the 21st of 2021, so 11/21/21 is North American Mission North America offering scheduled for that particular Sunday. I encourage you to take up a very generous offering. If you don't have us in your budget, consider putting us in your budget. So many things that we offer. I didn't mention our pastors boot camp that we offer free to our pastors to come, and a lot of the other things that we're involved in. And so if we can ever do anything for you in North American Ministries, we would love to do that. But don't forget that particular date, November 21, 2021, for our offering. And just before I finish, I would like to ask Pastor Tim Stout to come. We thank you so much for allowing him to serve on our board. Brother Tim has served incredibly for the last 12 years. And Brother David Crow, our director, wanted to be here to present to him this particular clock and plaque. But Brother Tim, this says North American Ministries of the National Association of Free Will Baptists commends Tim Stout for 12 years of faithful service as a member of the North American Ministries Board, 2009 to 2021. And for many of those years, Brother Tim served as our secretary, and we're going to miss him greatly. We need to change, I probably shouldn't say we need to change the rules of our denomination where they can keep on serving. But anyway, Brother Tim, bless you, my friend. Thank you so much for all that you have done. And may the Lord continue to bless you. So give it for Brother Tim.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brother Moderator.
You've heard the report of North American Ministries. We need a motion and a second to receive their report. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? There being none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. All right, at this time we have David Brown representing Free Will Baptist Foundation, and appreciate all that they have done and are doing and how God is blessed and is blessing our denomination through their presence and ministry.
I'm going to ask Brother Edwin to come up. About 20 years ago, the foundation, Bill Evans and I, we recognized that our state leaders are some of the most important people in our denomination. And we felt like we needed to develop good relationships with all of our state leaders. And we even provided some training. We take them down to Florida for a week, and they would learn all about planned giving. And one of those first classes was Edwin. And we appreciate him and how he has represented us in Ohio all these years. And we've seen, I'll tell you a little later about the kind of growth we've seen, but I really don't think we would have seen that kind of growth had we not established these kind of relationships. Yeah. And Edwin has been one of those guys who has helped us with that. And of course, you guys know this. He's one of our best leaders, period, whether it's for the foundation or anything. But anyway, on behalf of the foundation, I want to present you with this.
Thank you. Man, I appreciate that. It was unexpected. Thank you.
I usually have a standard stump speech that I give everywhere I go. I work up one for the whole season of state meetings, and did that this year, but something happened a couple of weeks ago. I had to change it. About 2 weeks ago, we received a very large endowment gift. And, over the years, Bill and I've been there since 1992, we prayed that people would see the value of the foundation and prayed for it to grow. And, when I started in 92, I really wasn't even working for the board, wasn't working for a foundation. I was working for the Board of Retirement because that's who paid my check back then. But the foundation had about $918,000 in assets in 1992. And we prayed and we worked and we prayed and we worked. Ladies and gentlemen, last week we crossed $100 million in assets. And that wouldn't have been possible without the help of a lot of people. And just want to thank all of you, and all of you have put money with us from your churches and done planned gifts in every area of our ministry that you've been involved in. We thank you for that. I think probably the best way to describe our ministry is when we just tell you a story. This is a story about a couple. They were born in 1931 and 32. And she died in 2014, and he died in 2020. That people born during that time, they went through the Great Depression, and they went through World War II. And, during those times, they were some pretty tough economic times, and they didn't waste anything. And they learned during World War II that if something wore out or it broke, you had to fix it because they weren't making new cars or new anything. Everything was for the war effort. And so they learned some things about how to manage money, and they did a good job with that. And through the years, they accumulated some funds. And then when he died in 2020, they tithed on their estate. And throughout their lives, in addition to supporting their local church, there were two ministries that always supported. One was missions, both international and home missionaries, and Welch College. They were given $100 a month to various international ministries, and they started out with the checkbooks. Like some of the guys, you remember that, for Welch, $5 a month, and he worked his way up to $25, or they worked their way up to $25, and so they were given $100 to missions and $25 to Welch when they died. And so they set up, they tithed on their estate, and they set that up as an endowment at the foundation. Guess how much that endowment is paying today? $100 a month to missions, $25 a month to Welch. From the perspective of those ministries, it's just as if they never died. And you can do the same thing. Everybody here could tithe on their estate and make a huge difference from now to eternity. And the thing is your kids are not going to get mad at you if they only got 90%. It's going to be okay. They'll be all right. So I trust that you'll consider that. And, of course, we have an estate planning program. Mike Wooten, Mike, why don't you stand? I think many of you probably have had Mike, or some of you had Mike up here. But, we've discovered that when we were doing some analysis that we haven't been to enough churches in Ohio, and we need to get into more churches. So if you haven't had us come, we would love for you to set up a time to come and do a seminar in your church. And if it's been a while since we came to your church, come back again and do the seminar again. And of course, we also offer estate planning. In addition to estate planning, we also have planned gifts where you can get a income throughout your life, and then when you go home to be with the Lord, that income goes to ministry. And we offer many other things of that nature. But I just really want us to be thinking about what kind of legacy are we going to leave on this earth when we go to meet with the Lord. And everybody can do that. And by the way, just to kind of do a Paul Harvey story here, let me tell you the rest of the story. The name of that couple was Don and Melba Brown, my mom and dad. Thank you.
We've heard the report of the Free Will Baptist Foundation. We need a motion and a second to receive their report. We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? I certainly appreciate the ministry of this department. I had an opportunity to serve on that board for a term, and I know the total funds at that time was much, much, much less than what it is now. God is blessed, and we appreciate the ministry and the work of the foundation. All those in favor of receiving their report say aye. Any opposed, no. Okay, motion carried. I think Dr. Moody's coming back to represent the Board of Retirement, so let's give him our undivided attention.
I want to encourage you to take advantage of the resources provided by the Board of Retirement. If you have any questions about anything they offer, please feel free to ask me, and I'll try to provide a place where you can get that information. We're going to show a video from them. Take a look at this, and just remember you can contact us with any further questions.
Ministry is rewarding, but let's face it, it can be challenging as well. With so many demands, it can be easy to lose focus of God's plan for your future. The Free Will Baptist Board of Retirement is here to partner with you, to help you fulfill God's purpose both now and in the future. Here at the Board of Retirement, we strive to help our Free Will Baptist employees, churches, and organizations prepare for their future ministries. We have 3 ministry focuses: retirement planning, institutional investing, and financial education. Our retirement plan has successfully assisted Free Will Baptist employees for almost 50 years. Our 403(b)(9) approved plan is available to any employee of a Free Will Baptist church, school, or agency. We welcome elective contributions from both pre-tax and Roth options, as well as contributions from employer, state, or co-op plans. We offer multiple investment strategies depending on how you'd like to diversify your contributions. Not only do these strategies meet IRS standards, but they align with biblical standards too. There are no commissions for new accounts or assets, and there are no direct fees. The Board of Retirement staff truly care for you and your retirement planning. We are here to partner with you in reaching your financial goals and fulfilling your ministry purpose. Our mission isn't limited to employees of Free Will Baptists. It extends to the employers as well. Through our institutional investing program, we partner with Free Will Baptist churches and organizations to help manage assets for the growth and development of their ministries. Whether your vision is to launch a new church, construct a new building, or simply to build reserves for future ministry, the Board of Retirement is here to help you receive a greater return for monies you are holding for future long-term projects. Churches and church organizations can open an investment account with the Board of Retirement and select one of our investment strategies to grow their accounts. This can generate a lasting impact for the kingdom. Our ministry doesn't stop here, though. The Board of Retirement wants to partner with you in providing financial education to those you serve. From kids to senior adults, we provide financial seminars and educational resources that will help prepare your people to be successful in managing their money, all from a biblical perspective. So let us partner with you in preparing for your future ministry. Visit boardofretirement.com or call 877-767-7738 to speak with a representative today.
All right, that's the report for the Board of Retirement. We need a motion and a second to receive their report. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Personally, I would like to encourage you pastors, if you're not a part of that or you have employees of your church that are not a part of that, check into it. It's well worth checking into and the investment. I'm thankful that I have my plan. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carried. All right, we're down to miscellaneous business, and we're going to make up a lot of time right here because there's not a whole lot. So I know that Jim McComas is wanting to bring a greeting and a report from Free Will Baptist Family Ministries. Brother Mike, would you want to do 5 minutes as well? Okay, all right. We'll hear from Mike Wooden. I really think it's worthwhile that you hear from Mike with Cornerstone because we've had them at our church twice regarding the revocable trust program, and we're not a big church. I think we've probably had 12 to 15 families within our church that have gone through that and done it, and it is well worth checking out. And pastors, this is one way that you can protect your families in the church from having to deal with a lot of probate issues when the time comes. So, Jim, come ahead.
Good afternoon. Well, when I was with North American Ministries, I used to be in Sam Spot, so I was up in the top tier, and now I'm with a ministry that's owned and operated by the Tennessee State Association. When a state is as kind and gracious as yours to let me speak, I'm usually at the end of the day of a very long series of reports in other business or miscellaneous reports. So I have adopted as my theme verse to you, Matthew 24:13, he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. And so I'm thankful for the time, appreciate it. Brother Moderator, I do bring you greetings from Free Will Baptist Family Ministries, one of the largest entities and largest ministries in the Free Will Baptist denomination, really in the world, with 11 different entities, across 3 different states, 250 employees, and a budget of $14 million. And I do want to say this, that I'm the executive director. I'm from Northeast Ohio. The first thing I did was begin to search. We had no chief operating officer. I hired Jim Robinette, and he moved from Sandusky, Ohio. In the first year I was there, our foster program, one of the most flourishing parts of our ministry, needed a director. And so I promoted one of our workers, Stacy Weaver from Zanesville, Ohio. And our pro-life ministries right now, just a few months ago, I coaxed, we needed a replacement for Sharon Hodgins, who is retiring as far as our Hope Center, our Crisis Pregnancy Center. And I brought out a retirement, Pam Crank, Dave Crank, Deacon Dave and Pam, they moved from Mansfield, Ohio. And so basically Free Will Baptist Family Ministries is being taken over by Buckeyes. So Bob Legg is here. Would you wave, stand back there in the back? That's Bob, and he is our field representative here in Ohio, and he'd love to come to your church if he hasn't already. I just want to say thank you for what you've done, for the over $71,000 that you gave to our ministry from Ohio over the last year, and we are seeing great things. I don't want to take a lot of time, but just over the weekend at our camp, the Oaks, Foothills Association is having their camp on Sunday night. 24 young people gave their hearts and lives to Christ. There were 5 kids in that group that didn't show up. They were already paid, but they couldn't make it to camp. So they filled those 5 spots. Every one of those 5 who weren't even supposed to go to camp all got saved. And so just recently in a church service, 5 of our young men from our campus there in Camp Creek got saved at church on Sunday morning, including a young man who said he was a self-avowed Satanist. And so I've found out our kids say there are a lot of things, but they're just confused. They just need the love of God in their life, and that's been my prayer from day one, is just in the time that we get them, that we can show them the power of Christ and the love of Jesus. And then just this past week, 2 of our young people, 2 young men on our campus in Arkansas, in Fort Smith, they went to camp, and 1 young man got saved and 1 rededicated his life. So that's a pretty good investment, return on investment, and so it's because of your support down through the years that can be possible. If you have any questions, you can ask Bob or I will be here today. But I didn't really come, to be honest with you. I didn't really want this opportunity to tell you that, although I appreciate the opportunity. I wanted this opportunity to thank that man right there. I worked, and for many years was, in my time here as pastoring in Ohio, was on Edwin's board. I was the vice chairman actually for several years. I came on the board in rough times, rough waters. So I have seen Edwin at the best on the mountain and in the valley, and I second everything that everybody has said. Brother Crabtree, and I appreciate what you said this morning, because it's not even trying to fill shoes. He's a gem. He is irreplaceable, and his integrity is unmatched. And I have worked with all of our state leaders, and there is none better than the one that Ohio has had for these many years. And Edwin, I want you to know I love and appreciate you. And that's what I wanted to come to Ohio to do. Thank you. God bless you. Moderator, thank you for the time.
All right, you've heard the report from Free Will Baptist Family Ministries and Jim's commentary. How's that? So we need a motion and a second to receive the report. Okay, we have it. How many, are there any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Mike Wooten has been to our church, and I think Barry Simpson was probably the first one to come. And again, we are not a large church, but our church was really impressed with the program, and I'd encourage you, pastors, talk to Mike, talk to their company or their office, and you'll come. I'm sure he will come.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. My name is Mike Wooten. I'm the president of Cornerstone Estate Planning, and we've helped many of you in here have their estate plan. It's an honor to actually go after Jim McComas because I think he needs more coffee. He's just going. He's just going. How many of you in here have children? Raise your hand if you have children. How many of you in here love those children? Raise your hand. Well, not everybody raised their hand. At the end of the day, I have a Free Will Baptist background, and we were at the Shallowford Free Will Baptist Church, and my son at the time was small. He was probably three years old, and the pastor was going on a little long, which I'm sure never happens anywhere else. And my wife was giving him the evil eye, and finally she looked at me, and she said, "Do something about him." So I picked him up, and we started walking out this aisle right here. And as soon as we hit that door, he yells out, "Pray for me, pray for me." So your kids know what's going on. Your kids know what's going on. We have helped Free Will Baptist families. Right now, we've done a little over 2,200 Free Will Baptist estate plans. And let me say this. Everybody goes, "Well, I don't have an estate." Yes, you do. Everybody's got an estate. Your estate is simply your stuff. And when you go home to be with the Lord, there has to be something in writing to talk about what happens with that stuff. I was on the phone with one of our attorneys today in Arkansas. A gentleman had an estate worth about $400,000. Because he didn't do anything, because there was a problem, the state of Arkansas took all $400,000 of that man's estate. His family didn't get it. Ministry didn't get it. What I'm here to tell you is that let us come into your church and educate your people. It's very, very soft. We're just simply going to talk about what are you going to do with what you have. Do you want some of it to, like Brother David talked about, to be tithed on your estate? Think about it. If every Free Will Baptist that there was tithed on their estate, we could fund everything that we need to be funded. As a matter of fact, one of the things the foundation does is we've given $2.6 million away in grants. We're giving $500,000 a year away in grants. And so what that tells me is that we have generous people, but we have to educate them. Let us come out to your church, take a few minutes, we'll talk about how this works. Your people will be happy that they understand how this works, because so many times people will say to me, "Well, I didn't know that's how it worked." And we had a situation in North Carolina not too long ago. Family in North Carolina, nobody really thought that they had a bunch of money. They ended up leaving $250,000 to their local work in North Carolina. Educate your people. The Bible talks a lot about money. If we'll teach our people what to do, we'll be surprised what they will do. And so far, because God's in this, a little over $20 million has been pledged to kingdom work through this ministry. To that I say, to God be the glory. Thanks. Thank you, Brother Moderator.
Yes, sir. Need a motion and a second to receive Brother Wooten's report. Amen. Are there any questions? Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, no. I had to hear the presentation at the National, I think at least twice. First of all, I didn't have my wife with me the first time, and she has worked in a law firm for all of her adult life, pretty much. So the second time, I think you all were doing a steak dinner. I thought, hey, I'll listen to anything for a steak dinner. So I took my wife, we listened again. She said, if this is as good as it sounds, this is a good program. So we had them come out the first time, like I say, and it is well worth your while. We have helped a lot of families in our church, and I really see it as that. Help them prepare for a very difficult time so that their family doesn't have to worry about how things are going to be distributed. So that's the end of our business. Before we adjourn, I do want to mention, if you are a delegate from Memphis, I believe you need to see Brother Brian. Is that correct?
Well, I could just give him that too.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just do that.
All right. So I need a motion to adjourn. Boy, a lot of hands went up. It's like an auction going on here. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please stand. And I think you can stand even if you're not a delegate. You're probably ready. If you're contrary, you can just sit there. Poor Brother Luthi got up fast. So it's been a good day. It's been different, but it's been a good kind of different. I know some of you maybe were a little anxious about the time, but here we are. We're scheduled to adjourn at 4, and guess what? We're early, and there's been a lot of good done today. We've given roses and recognized those who need recognized. We've conducted the business of our state, heard reports from our national departments and what God's doing. God's good, and I am, I'll agree with Brother Mike Baldwin. I'm proud to be a Free Will Baptist. I really am. I'm excited about what God's doing in our midst. So come back this evening. Make sure that you come in time for prayer. We meet right through that door. You can go right through that door, and we'll be in a conference room there, or you can come in through the office hallway and join us. I think, 6 o'clock? Is that right? 6:30. Well, if you show up at 6, just get started, and we'll join you at 6:30. But make sure you join us for prayer tonight. As we're dismissed this evening, or this afternoon, I'm going to ask Brother Roland Luthi to dismiss us in prayer and ask God's blessing until we meet here in a couple hours.